Today we're going to discuss the current prices of Bitcoin, XRP and Shiba Inu. My dear ladies and gentlemen, are we expecting a significant correction in Bitcoin's price in the upcoming days, potentially dropping towards $45,000 to $40,000? And should we then anticipate a crypto market reversal, or will this crypto market reversal actually occur within the next few days? So, the rise of Bitcoin and all altcoins. Let's start with Bitcoin's price, then we'll talk about economic events. Two events await us that will greatly impact Bitcoin's price this week. What's the current situation with the Bitcoin exchange rate? It has now reached $60,000. We discussed that around $55,000 to $56,000. We have very strong support here. More accurately, that support is coming to an end right there. Currently, Bitcoin's price is experiencing sideways movement, and it's unclear which direction it will take, either up towards $82,000 or first down to $56,000, and then, as I mentioned, to $45,000 or $40,000, meaning to the targets of this large flag formation. We'll be discussing that a little later on. I want to show you the economic events that will significantly influence Bitcoin's price this week. Look, we're awaiting the unemployment data, which will be released this Wednesday. We require these unemployment figures to increase in order for the Federal Reserve to reduce the interest rate, most probably sometime around summer. However, if the unemployment data does indeed climb higher, then there is a significant possibility that the American index, that is to say, the shares of US companies, will experience a sharp decline. If unemployment figures come down, it's not particularly good for the crypto market. We're also expecting inflation data this Friday, February 13th. The market is operating under the assumption that inflation has dropped by 2.5%. If it truly fell, then this Friday it will be a positive development, but if we still see 2.7 or 2.8, that will be a negative event for the crypto market. Another thing that concerns us is that on Monday there will be a holiday in the United States, which means that most likely the market will not be moving on Monday. Everything truly depends on the upcoming inflation figures and the latest unemployment statistics. Additionally, the Federal Reserve's meeting is scheduled only for the month of March, specifically in the middle of March. They're changing the chairman sometime in April. I still don't know for sure if it's in April or at the end of April or in early May. A new chairman will be appointed. It's possible the new chairman will only reduce the interest rate in the month of June. However, we'll discuss this further as that time approaches. Quarterly figures for American companies are also important. Nvidia's will be on February 25th. You see, we discussed in our recent videos that we have support right here. The price was still at $77,000, as you can see. Between $70,000 and $55,000, there is support. The next support after $55,000 will only be at $45,000 and $40,000, then $30,000 and $20,000. All right, let's get back to Bitcoin's price. So, the relevant data we have right now is on unemployment and inflation. But we shouldn't forget about the conflict between the United States and Iran. If it happens, we'll face a correction regardless of what the unemployment and inflation figures are. They held negotiations last week. Now, this week they will most likely negotiate again. But as long as ships are near Iran, specifically American ships, there's a chance of conflict escalation. And as I've mentioned to you before, the next significant support area is somewhere around perhaps even 57. That is precisely here where this distinct purple line extends, indicating a strong likelihood of upward movement towards this level. However, in the event of a market escalation, it's crucial not to overlook this particular zone, which previously indicated $45,000 to $40,000. Where did this large flag originate? This large flag is actually derived from this very movement, and this in principle represents the target from this flag. So what that means is the next support level is $45,000 to $40,000. This is quite realistic if an escalation occurs between these two countries. What is currently happening with the XRP price? XRP is also in a sideways movement, and as I've mentioned to you, everything further depends on Iran, the USA, unemployment figures, and inflation data. When Bitcoin's price reached $60,000, XRP stopped right here at approximately $1.12. Here you can see the numbers 55, 50, 45, and 40. What exactly does this imply? It signifies that should Bitcoin's value decline to $55,000 or even $50,000, then XRP would find its support level at these specific green lines. Let's take a moment to quickly go over them. You will definitely need them if there's an escalation of the conflict or if the exchange rate reacts negatively to the unemployment or inflation data, but these figures are more focused on the ongoing issue between Iran and the United States. $55,000 for Bitcoin will be at XRP right here at 96.82. When Bitcoin reaches 50,000, XRP's price will be 81 cents.
then we're looking at roughly 67 cents approximately, or perhaps 68. And this next point is somewhere around 56 to 57 cents. This is for a correction. You also see these blue lines here. These blue lines are trend lines. So for XRP to start growing, Bitcoin must grow and XRP must break through its first blue line. See? As soon as XRP broke past the blue line, it began a pretty good climb. But it didn't last for very long, this growth, but it did happen. This is just one example of many. I can show you many other examples. So if a correction occurs when XRP breaks this blue line, it will then move to the next blue line, which is the next trend line. From there, there's a chance of another correction. These trend lines are needed for this purpose. For example, the price approached the blue line, then went into a correction. Similarly, the price approached the blue line, it might go into a correction. So for these blue lines are essential to understand when a correction will occur and when a breakout will happen. What's happening with Shiba Inu's price? Shiba Inu has fallen, and where is it now? It's at its historical support. All further crypto market movements depend on the issue between Iran and the US and on unemployment data, inflation data, and the Fed's decision. Alright, what's in the Koksam? We're going to discuss these specific zones with you now, just in case there's a correction in Bitcoin's price. When Bitcoin reached the $60,000 mark, Shiba Inu paused right here at its final support level, which was 509. If Bitcoin reaches $55,000, Shiba Inu will likely stabilize at 0.435. $50,000 for Bitcoin will be approximately right here, 0.369. 45,000 for Bitcoin will be approximately 314, and this zone will be roughly around 260. So these specific zones are important for you to consider in case of a Bitcoin correction, especially for Shiba Inu. Of course, Bitcoin should then experience a reversal from these levels, and Shiba Inu will also see a corresponding reversal. Alright, these are estimated figures, so they're not 100% accurate, just so you get a general idea. But where Shiba Inu is currently located, it's a very good zone, we could say, and from this zone it has always moved upwards. The problem is that we have an ongoing unresolved conflict between the United States and Iran. We are also seeing upcoming unemployment figures and new inflation data. Then there are the quarterly earnings reports from American companies, plus the major US stock market indices are currently at their all-time peak. This means there's a possibility that sooner or later they could enter a correction and pull the crypto market down with them. Therefore, be cautious. A correction can still occur. But if you look at altcoins, they've already fallen quite a lot if you compare them to where they were a year or even 6 months ago. So until this problem with Iran and the US is resolved, there's a pretty high chance of a significant correction. Right, so please be careful. I wish you a good day and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.